This is Legal Live with Eddie and Chuck Farah. They're talking the latest legal news and answering your questions. To call Legal Live and ask Eddie and Chuck a question, grab your phone and dial 855-765-1045. That's 855-765-1045.
Welcome to the Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. Give us a call at 855-765-1045. Happy Saturday, gentlemen. How's everything going today?
It's all good, Shvalika. Good to be here.
Good.
Good to be anywhere.
That's true. Today's been a beautiful day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
okay. Yep.
You are.
Okay,
Go for it. You're
okay.
on.
The red light says we're on. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought the red light says stop, but it means something else. It means something else in the radio world. But,
yeah, it means go.
Yeah, let's go. Well, we're going to get ready to go. And again, we want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. It means so much to us that you're listening in. We enjoy being here every Saturday, or most Saturdays at least. And we appreciate the phone calls most of all, because that's what it's all about. It's all about you and your questions and your legal issues and even your comments. I mean, you don't necessarily have to agree with what we say. We encourage opposing opinions. We love opposing opinions. You're not going to offend us. Can't offend Chuck and I. We've heard it all.
Yeah, me neither.
We want it. We want to hear your views and so forth. Because we're going to talk about abortions today a little bit, because there was a case that came out in Florida I want to talk about. It's not a recent case. It happened 3 years ago, but the abortion law is now almost in effect. I don't know if the governor's getting ready to sign it, and it's a restrictive rule and a lot of law, and a lot of people are for it. But there's also the opposite side of that. There's a cause of action in Florida that you can maintain, and it's called wrongful birth. And this is a case that I had read about several years ago that happened here in Florida, where a lady went in. She was pregnant. She went in for an ultrasound, and they told her everything was okay. And she continued on with the pregnancy. As the pregnancy got on longer and longer, she had more ultrasounds. They weren't sure about what they had seen the first time. So, but eventually, I mean, things, the baby was born, and the baby was severely, severely deformed. I don't even want to get into it. It was not good any respect. So she filed a lawsuit against her doctor and claimed wrongful birth. And there was a cause of action. And the cause of action in Florida reads as follows. Wrongful birth in Florida is that type of medical malpractice in which parents give birth to an impaired or deformed child and allege that negligent treatment or advice deprived them of the opportunity to avoid or terminate the pregnancy. So they're arguing that if we had been advised properly and we knew what was going to happen to this baby, we would have terminated the pregnancy, and you denied us that right. Therefore, we're suing you for wrongful birth, and we want the money that it's going to take care of this child, for as long as he or she lives. And they won that case. And they obtained a verdict of, it was in the millions. I don't know how much it was. There was eventually an appeal, and it was partially reversed on some sort of technicality. But that cause of action in Florida survives today, the wrongful birth statute. And you don't see it too often. It's very rare. This is the case I saw. I read about it was several years ago, and I haven't seen one since. But, that's just the other side of the coin of what people are talking about. And that's a case that's here in Florida. So I kind of wanted to start off with that. Maybe people have some opinions on it. The abortion thing is in the news, especially in Florida, because they're getting ready to sign this law. But wrongful birth is still a viable cause of action in the state of Florida. Now, I don't know how it's affected if the court, if you cannot have an abortion and your child, there's a defect, something that a birth defect, and the child was born anyway, I don't know, maybe that cause of action goes by the wayside right now. But right now, it is a cause of action. It's been used before in Florida, and it's still viable. So anyway.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. most of the time we talk about wrongful death cases.
Right.
Somebody dies
Wrongful
in a
death,
car
that
accident.
makes sense.
Somebody dies in a medical mistake, kills somebody. Somebody gets killed on the job. That's a wrongful. That's a wrongful death.
So what are the damages like?
Well, what it costs to take care of the baby.
Yeah, I mean
That's what they're going to
it's
calculate.
huge, yeah.
So you bring an expert in. You say, listen, this kid's got to be in a home for the rest of his life, and he's got a life expectancy of 20 years or whatever it is, and it costs this much to take care of them, and you factor in inflation and everything else.
It's also
And
severely
then I'm wondering if you have you have the damages the parents have to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, the emotional
The
and
emotional
like the
stuff
consortium type damages,
But so it's a huge thing. But
Yeah, it's the damages skyrocket.
I remember when Zika virus was really affecting Florida as well. There were a lot of pregnant mothers that were worried about that.
Yeah.
They take the baby to full term,
Yeah.
and then the child won't
Correct.
live longer than a few weeks due to severe cranial deformities.
Correct.
That's, equally traumatic. It's hard enough for a woman to give birth. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
You can also file a wrongful birth claim if the doctor does something wrong during the pregnancy that causes a defect. A birth defect.
Really?
Yeah, this is not just, hey, this kid's got these genetic problems. If the doctor does something and causes your child, I don't know, gives you a drug or does something, a procedure that potentially causes your child to be born in a deformed state, then that's also a cause of action. It's a wrongful birth, because if I had known, or you had told me, or you didn't make that mistake, I would have terminated the pregnancy. But
My goodness.
I'm going to get into something else real quick. But I think we have Chris online waiting.
We do. We have a caller from Jacksonville. Chris, what's going on? You're having some problems buying cars online?
Well, actually, purchased a car from one of the big online vendors, and been waiting to try to get a clear title, and now I find out I can't get a clear title because the car that they sold me, they didn't have a clear title for it, because after they purchased it, they found out that there was a lien on it, and now they're trying to clear that up. I've gone months now with this car. Actually, it's my daughter's. Gone months now with this car, and I don't know what my liability for insurance. We have it insured. There's no lien on it. So there's.
What do you mean?
What do I do? You try to call these people, and you can't reach them because it's online.
Okay, well, they took care of the lien. So you're saying they took care of the lien?
Or they're going to.
No, they said they bought it and didn't know they didn't know there was a lien on it. Now there's a lien on it, and they're saying, well, we're not making much money on this car, so we want the original seller to satisfy his lien for us. And my response is, no, you guys need to pay it. The laws.
Yeah, the online seller is responsible for providing you with a clear title. But in terms of but you have the ownership of it. Is the title in your name at this point, subject to the lien?
No, they won't transfer title because they can't get a clear title.
Okay, well, we talked about this last week on the show. There's a provision in Florida law called beneficial ownership, and we talked about that, where the car is titled in somebody else's name, but somebody else has complete control, like yourself. You have complete control of the car. You have the keys. You've probably registered it. You've purchased insurance.
Right.
The other owner has no access to the vehicle. So under the Florida law, really, you're kind of considered the owner of the car, even if you don't have the title. The case we talked about last week dealt with...
can't...
Go ahead.
Can I ask you?
Yeah,
we can't seem to get the tag We can't seem to get the tag transferred because they're handling that.
Right.
And
what kind of tag are you operating
they say
under
we
right
can't
now?
do it.
What kind of tag are you operating?
They sent us a temporary. They sent us a temporary tag, but that's expired.
Okay. Well, you need to get an extension of the temporary tag until they can get the problem resolved. But they have a listen. You've got a case you can't lose because they owe you a clear title to the vehicle. You should read the contract, but it's implied they're going to send you a car without a lien on it. I mean, you paid for the car that was without a lien.
Right.
They didn't say subject to the lien. They're going to have to make it good. I mean, they're going to have to do something now. But in terms of your legal liability, you own the vehicle. The person who owned the car previously, technically doesn't really have any responsibility. If you cause an accident, for instance, they're not going to be able to go against the previous owner because you have the beneficial ownership, at least in Florida law.
You got the possession of it.
You
have control over the
possession
vehicle.
and control and use and everything else.
I see.
So you're okay there.
And
Go ahead.
And my insurance company would pay a claim.
Yeah.
Even though the car's not titled.
Yeah, because you have beneficial ownership. That's the whole thing. You should clear that up with them. Have you informed them of the issue?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, they were the ones that said, we're trying to get you a clear title. We bought it under false pretenses.
No, I'm talking about the insurance company.
We're trying to get.
Have you notified the insurance company? Because, you want to
tell. No, I have not.
Because let me tell you what you need to look at is your application. When you purchased a vehicle, you need to look at the application that you filled out and make sure that it doesn't ask you, is the car titled in your name? And if you say yes and it's not titled in your name, then if something happens, you don't have coverage for that accident. So you need to inform your insurance company. Yeah. I'm telling you.
Okay.
You have to go back and call your insurance company. I'm having a problem with the title. I purchased a vehicle. They can't seem to clear up the lien. I want you to let you know that here's the issue. And are you still insuring me? And you should do that in writing, because what will happen if you have a claim? Let's say somebody steals a car and you want to make a claim for, for the value of the vehicle. They're going to go back and look at the application. And if in the application it asks you, do you own the vehicle? And you said yes. When you don't, then you don't have coverage for that accident.
I see. The actual insurance was a transfer from the previous car, so there was no new application. I traded one in and then took possession of this one.
Well, you still want to make them aware of it.
Okay.
You sold the previous car and you just substituted one car for the other. I still think.
Yes.
But I'll tell you this: no matter if it was a transfer, there was still some sort of application, either online application that you digitally signed, or there was something in writing that you signed.
Okay.
I can guarantee you that.
Okay. So I need to look at that.
Yeah. You have to, right now. Your main concern is calling the insurance company to make sure you're protected in case something happens with the car, and let the the retailer get you a clear title.
All right. Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris, for calling in.
Yeah, we'll get back to this. He brought up an issue that I want to discuss topic.
All right. We'll come right back after this quick break, and we'll talk about that. Give us a call at 855-765-1045. You've been listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. You're listening to Legal Live on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm going to throw it right over to Eddie in studio.
With this insurance thing, no matter what type of insurance you have, whether it's health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, you maybe own a duplex and you're renting it out and you got insurance for that, or your home insurance, whatever it is. The first thing that the insurance companies do when you file a claim, they go back and look at your application. And if they find a misrepresentation, what they consider a material misrepresentation, which is just about anything, maybe you forgot to dot an I or something like that, you can get away with it. But if there's any kind of what they consider a material misrepresentation, or maybe it's not really a material misrepresentation and they say it is, then they're going to stop. They're not going to pay your policy. They're not going to pay you. You're not going to have any coverage. They're going to send you a check for the money that you paid for the insurance premium, and they're going to just mail it to you and say, thank you very much. And then you're involved in a lawsuit. And now the laws favor people who are in that situation, because if you win, you can make them pay your attorney's fees. But who wants to get in that situation? That's a long road, and you're not guaranteed to win. You got an insurance lawyer on the other side, and you got to go through the legal process to try to prove you have coverage. But that's why you want to make sure when you fill out an application, it's filled out properly. Take your time and fill it out. When you have an agent, like in the old days where everybody had an agent, the agent would almost fill it out for you. Mm-hmm. He knew what had to be in the application. He would take you through all the questions. He knew how they needed to be answered, because he represented you, And he was to make sure you had coverage. So, and if he misrepresented something or he didn't advise you properly and you don't have coverage, then you have a claim against against your agent. But now things are online. You don't have an agent. You're saving money. You're cutting out the agent. You're saving that 15%. And so you have to fill it out. And you have to make sure that you fill it out properly, because if you do it wrong, you don't have coverage. We have a case right now that we're looking at where a young lady was involved in an accident. The insurance company went back to the application, and they asked her where she lived. Another question asked, where do you put the car? Where's the car garaged? And she said, well, my grandparents are giving me the car, so I'm saying it's garaged in my house. But really, it was being garaged at the grandparents' house for a while. She was keeping it at the grandparents. So, the car wasn't garaged in your home. Therefore, you have no coverage because you didn't tell us the truth. That's what happens. Yeah. So that's why Chris needs to go back, tell the insurance company that, I don't have a title yet. The company that I bought it from is having a problem giving me the title. I have the ownership benefit. I have the vehicle. I want to insure it. I have control of it. And are you going to insure that vehicle when I don't own it? And
you're telling listeners, be upfront, over inclusive. Don't hold anything back. Let them know all the facts. When you're dealing with the insurance company, because they take that information and then they adjust the insurance based on what you're telling them.
Right.
So that's their excuse. Oh well, you didn't tell me X, Y, or Z. Therefore, if you had told me that, the premium would have been different, or
Yeah.
And so that's how they get out of it.
Yeah, they use the underwriting excuse. Oh, the underwriters would have valued this policy differently, like Chuck says, if you had told us A, B, and C. So anyway,
it's an important step.
Yeah, it's the most important step.
It is.
It's the start of everything. But like we said in the old days, Chuck, you just called your agent. Hey, I need insurance. He knew you.
They had to relate
your needs. He knew who you were. He knew what you were up to and what you had, and he knew how to protect you.
Times they are a change.
You go on the internet, and I'm telling you, you save 15%, but there's a cost of it. Nothing's free.
That's right.
You may save 15%.
That 15% may cost you your car or your boat or your house.
I said nothing's free.
Right. Yeah, save 15%, but cut out the middleman and maybe mess up your application.
Right.
Yay for you. All right. Well, you've been listening to Legal Live on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. We've got a caller on the line. We'll be right back after this quick break, and then we'll get right to you, Suzanne. Hang in there. Thanks for listening, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah. I'm Shafalika, and I'm joined here today with Eddie and Chuck. You can give us a call at 855-765-1045. Right now, we've got a patient caller on the line. Suzanne from North Florida, what's going on?
Hi. I got a Verizon tablet a while ago. I ended up in the hospital shortly after getting it, and I tried multiple times to cancel the line, offering to return it, pay it off, whatever. Of course, it was during the height of COVID. So, we can't do anything over the phone. You have to come into a store. So I tried to have a family member bring the tablet in to do it for me because I was hospitalized for months. And the family member couldn't do it. I finally ended up coming down here to Florida, and after 18 months of trying to cancel this, and this is even after the contract was over, I finally got it canceled, and they said they were going to waive the last payment because I hadn't used it in so long. Now I'm getting collection notices. Wow. And, of course, with the collection notices, I tried calling Verizon to talk to them, but because it's in collections, you automatically get transferred to the collection service, who says, oh, I'm sorry, we can't help you with that. You have to talk to Verizon. And as soon as you try calling Verizon, it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I don't know. This is not an area that we practice. We're personal injury lawyers, but we hear this all the time. It's happened to a lot of people, not just you. Maybe not with Verizon, but other companies have done it. If it's have you checked your credit? Is it on your credit report?
It has hit my credit report now.
Okay, if it's hit your credit report, then you would have a cause of action against Verizon. Okay, and you can get attorney's fees and so forth for that. And you're entitled to damages in addition. So if it's on your credit, if it's wrongfully on your credit report and they told you it wasn't going to be put there, and you tried to cancel it, I don't see why you couldn't have canceled. Did you give your relatives like a power of attorney, a signed document saying they have authority to?
She had everything. She had a power of attorney. Luckily, there was a notary in the hospital that could sign for that power of attorney. She had the tablet so she could return it. She had my credit card if they wanted it paid off. I literally just wanted it to go away because I haven't used it since about a month before I went into the hospital.
Right.
And, it's ridiculous that you have to pay 18 months for something that isn't even under contract
that's
anymore.
A lot. That's crazy. That really is.
And when I finally talked to the collection agency and got tired of trying to get through to Verizon on the phone, I walked into a store and asked them, this is what I'm trying to do. And the guy in the store was like, well, you have to talk to corporate. I asked for a phone number for corporate that I could get through, and he says, call the one on your bill. And I explained to him, I'm calling the number on the bill, and it keeps sending me to collections because that's where it is now.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah.
Well, how am I supposed to fix this? And he ended up almost, throwing me out of the store because even though I was not being loud, I was causing a scene in front of other customers because 18 months.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That's a horror story right there.
Yeah, it is.
That's a big ripoff. It really is. And they get away with it. I mean, I don't know. The thing is, if you want to leave your phone number with our producer, I will try to find you. If it's on your credit report, you may have a legal action against Verizon. So if you want to leave your phone number with our producer, I will try to find you somebody who can handle that for you.
That would be fantastic.
That's what you need. That's what you got to have.
I don't want this happening to somebody else.
Yeah. You need to whack them upside the head so they'll, because the only thing they understand is when they have to pay money. You calling means nothing to these guys. You've got to hit them in the pocketbook when they try to take advantage of you like that. You need to do something about it. I mean, like you said, for other people, not just for yourself, but for everybody else out there.
Yeah, and I mean, it gets to the point where it feels like harassment, and that's truly what I feel right now, is that it is harassment.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see how you couldn't cancel it over the phone. That's something, because they can ask your social. They can ask you for your social. They can get other personal information they have to confirm it's you. I mean, I've canceled stuff over the phone. I don't see why Verizon. I mean, I don't have Verizon. I just don't know why they couldn't cancel the service over the phone while you were in the hospital.
Well, and the other amusing thing is, trying to get into the store during COVID, unless you had an appointment, which is hard to get.
Yeah, the COVID excuse,
You couldn't get into the store.
Right.
And then when she finally got in, because it was my sister I sent in, when she finally got in, she was told, I'm sorry, we can't do that in the store. You have to do it over the phone. And it's like they are making it 20 times more difficult to do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Than it needs to be.
Yeah. Well, Suzanne, I appreciate it. If you leave your phone number, I'll try to find somebody to follow up with you.
Yeah, stay on the line for a moment.
And I'll be in phone contact.
And our producer, Daniel, will get your number real quick.
We got
I'm
Linda.
so sorry this happened. Yep. We've got good luck with that, Suzanne. We're going to get you some help on that. And our next caller on the line is Linda from Jacksonville, who needs some help understanding how to stack some coverage. What's going on?
Chuck's the expert at that, Linda. He'll help you out. Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah. Hi,
Pressure's
I'm doing
on.
fine. Thank you. How are you? And thanks so much for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
My husband just purchased a new Can-Am F3 Spider motorcycle. We have coverage. Um, we had coverage on the old bike, but let me just explain. I don't understand what stacking, non-stacking insurance is. Only thing I know is very expensive.
Yeah,
Is that something that I need to have because my husband has this new motorcycle?
Well, yes. If you can, you're talking about uninsured motorist coverage. That's really the only type of insurance I can think that you can stack. And what I mean by stack is adding policies from different vehicles to get a lump sum of coverage if you're involved in an accident. Okay, so uninsured motorist coverage is coverage that protects you against the other driver who causes an accident and injures you, but doesn't have enough coverage or no coverage at all. So it protects you for your injuries, your pain and suffering, your lost wages, your medical bills. That's what it's for. It's protecting you against the uninsured or the underinsured driver out there that may be causing accidents. Okay?
So if you have good insurance, you still need that?
Yeah.
Well, you do, because you want to protect, especially if you're on a motorcycle. In Florida.
Where 20% of the drivers have no insurance.
Or not enough insurance.
Yeah.
Listen,
what's $10,000? A motorcycle, God forbid, motorcycle accidents. It's not like you fall off a bike and you got a $500 medical bill. It's always a lot of money.
No. So, yes, you should buy it. And when you price it out, you'll be surprised how, relatively cheap it is compared to other coverages.
Okay.
And, there are a lot of laws that protect, the consumers like ourselves to make sure the insurance company pays the right way. And, it's good coverage to have.
Yeah.
You got to have it. I would not drive without it.
Okay, so although I just purchased the umbrella insurance
you're talking
for $1 million, I still need that coverage.
Yeah.
You're talking about, all right, so
you get sued.
If you get sued, if you cause an accident and you injure somebody, then you need that umbrella coverage to protect you and your assets against your negligent acts. Okay?
Okay.
But I'm talking about somebody else causing you injury, and you'll need to stack that coverage. It's called uninsured motorist coverage. You should purchase that also.
Yeah,
very good. Thank you.
Yes, Linda, if you can't stack it, at least get some on the motorcycle. For instance, let's say your husband's driving his motorcycle down the road. Somebody hits him and keeps going. It's a hit and run. And they never find the person. Well, you have uninsured motorist coverage. You just got hit by an uninsured or underinsured driver. They don't know who it is. It's a phantom vehicle. Your underinsured motorist is going to protect your husband.
Gotcha.
You'll be able to
Sounds
get payment.
good. I'll keep it. I did get it. I was going to let it go back.
No, don't
take
do
it off,
that.
but I will keep it.
No, you want to
Very
keep
good.
it. Thanks, Art. Thank you. Yes,
Okay,
good
bye-bye.
question. We get this question all the time, and it's always a good question. It's always a good thing to talk about.
All right. Thank you for calling in, Linda. That was a fantastic question to ask. And good luck to your husband getting a motorcycle. Congratulations on that. You've been listening to Legal Live on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. You're listening to Legal Live on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. We'll be throwing it right over to Eddie for what's next.
Yes, talk about some free speech issues. A few years ago, when Isaiah Thomas was the coach for the New York Knicks, he wasn't doing too well, and the team was losing a lot, and the fans were starting to heckle him. And he'd come to the game, and people were yelling at him and probably throwing stuff at him and everything. But the team issued an order that anybody who came to the game could not heckle the coach, And everybody said, well, that's free speech. I'm at a public event. Why can't I express myself? But when it comes to private entities, private businesses, you don't necessarily have those constitutional rights you think you have. Another take on that is during we're getting into a political season, it seems like we're always in a political season, but
Right.
Your employer, some employers, because they deal with the public, they want to appear politically neutral when it comes to politics. So they've issued a requirement that no employee express their political views while they're at work. Can't wear campaign buttons. Don't come to work in the parking lot with anything on your vehicles. We don't want you to express any political views while you're working at my company. And a lot of people had issue with that, but technically, an employer can prevent you from expressing your political views at work. You don't have a First Amendment free speech, doesn't necessarily apply on private property in a private workplace. So
they agreed that Isaiah couldn't get heckled.
yeah,
So
they say.
even though Madison Square Garden is a public,
Yeah, no, but it's owned by a private entity.
Oh,
Whoever
it
owns
is?
the next, a private company. And
Oh,
they
I
said you're
thought
gonna
it was
come to-
owned by the city or
No,
this.
they own it as a private person. So under the law, you can be fired for expressing political opinions at work. And the rule is keep your mouth shut, express them at home or in your personal life, because employers are using this. It's probably in your employee manual. If you read it, a lot of employers put it in the employee manual or issue, maybe during the political season, they send an email out to everybody, putting them on notice. But it's something you need to be concerned about, because an employer can fire you for violating that rule if they have that rule. Maybe your employer doesn't care. He doesn't deal with the public. He doesn't care what you come to work wearing or what you come to work saying or carrying in the back of your truck or vehicle. But some employers do care, and they have a right to prevent you from expressing your political opinions at work. And
That's interesting that even your vehicle can't have any decals on it, because that's your own personal property, though, right?
yeah, it is. But if it's at work, you're in their employer's parking lot,
Oh,
and
I
customers
see.
are coming to work, they see a flag or they see a sticker on our car, and maybe that customer doesn't agree with that, and he goes, "I'm taking my business somewhere else." So the employer has a right to enforce that political neutrality to protect his business. So your constitutional rights don't necessarily apply when you're on private. It's like when you go to a private school. I mean, once you sign that, I mean, it's not like a public school. At a private school, they have much more control over who comes in, who goes, who is allowed to stay at the school, how people are kicked out of school. They have a lot more control over that because it's private. So you do give up constitutional rights when you go into that private arena, so to speak, and especially when it comes to politics. It's such a hot topic these days. Employers are very sensitive to that, and they make a big deal about people coming to work trying to impose their opinions on everybody else or on their customers.
That's interesting.
Yep.
So it's different from like soliciting, like sign up for this campaign or, donate money to this candidate.
well,
It's
this
just
is-
you can't even talk about.
Well, this is part of that probably too. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably
Oh,
don't want you
okay.
soliciting money for somebody or going around and politicking for somebody, because you may upset your coworkers, and that leads to a less productive work environment. Maybe it causes animosity at work.
I see.
People don't get along because you believe this, I
Breaks
believe
down
that.
the culture.
Yeah, the morale,
I
the culture is destroyed. So employers can limit your free speech at work. The bottom line. Usually, you find it in the employee your manual, but they can update the manual. They can send you an email. They can issue an edict or a new policy and prevent you from doing that. So, anyway, that's just
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah, the way things are.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's the
I'm
way
really
things
glad
are.
I work here because we get to talk about politics all the
Oh,
time
yeah.
because we
Oh, yeah.
have to.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's kind of our job.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fascinating.
Private properties you can control.
yeah.
So does that also constitute like
Well,
private schools and whatnot? Are the children
private
being
school-
censored as well?
Yeah. Private schools, same thing. I mean, you go to a private school here in Jacksonville, and they have their rules, and I've seen it happen at a private school here in town where they just decided this person allegedly did something, and they just kicked him out. I mean, there's not like due process. It's not like, oh, you can appeal it. In the public school system, you've got a due process. I mean, there's a way to contest what they're saying about you, and you've got an administrative process to go through. But in private schools, it's really up to them. They can say, no, we believe you did it, and you're no longer allowed to come to school here, and you're kicked out, and they can do it a lot easier than they can in a public school. They just have so much more control.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, this has been quite an interesting show today. We've had a diversity of coverage.
Yeah, I thought we'd get some comments on the wrongful birth stuff, but maybe
it'll sink in. I think we should talk about it again because
Next
it is
week.
Something that's really unique, and you don't think about, like you said, it's always wrongful death, but what about the birth?
I've actually never heard of that till today, so that is something I'm going to look into. It's very interesting.
Yep.
And we'll be back again next week, I guess, Saturday on
See you next Saturday.
at noon on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. Thank you for listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah. We'll see you next time.